Hello, world. Welcome to episode 74 of the Jimmy Canz Show. This one's a little different, a little special. Thought I would try something a little different here. Not going to be a prediction show, not going to be a retrospective. Just going to kind of throw out some opinion. Discuss this weekend's upcoming All Out pay-per-view, as well as the upcoming changes to NXT. So first, let's start by discussing All Out a little bit. Huge card coming out of the Now Arena in suburban Chicago. I think 10 matches on the card, including their buy-in, the Casino Battle Royal, which we'll discuss in a minute, moved off of the buy-in onto the main show. Cancellation of the Pac Andrade match, leading to now the addition of a 10-man tag match for the pre-show. So I think because they couldn't deliver on what they originally announced, and the 10-man tag is an addition, they decided let's move that to the pre-show and give the women the main show. Pretty decent decision in my opinion. The 10-man tag is the team of Orange Cassidy, Chuck Taylor, Wheeler Yuta, and Jurassic Express, who is Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus, and they'll have Marco Stunt with them, taking on the Hardy Family Office, Matt Hardy, Private Party, which is Isaiah Cassidy and Mark Quinn, and TH2, which is Angelico and Jack Evans. So, like I said, this isn't a prediction show. I'm just kind of running through things. Should be a pretty solid match. You got 10 individuals in this match that all have solid characters, can tell a story in the ring. Should be a good watch. The 21 women Casino Battle Royal. Up next, we all know how this match works in AEW. Get your 4 suits. So you have 5 competitors representing each suit, and then your Joker card at the end, which is a surprise entrant. I think 19 of the 21 women are announced for this matchup. They include Nyla Rose, Thunder Rosa, Bunny, Big Swole, Julia Hart, Ty Conti, Diamante, Ford, Red Velvet, Kirashida, Emi Sakura, Jade Cargill, Kiera Hogan, Abaddon, Layla Hirsch, Keelan King, Jamie Hayter, Anna Jay. That's 19. Yeah. And there'll be 2 more women. Probably get a surprise woman in the 5, and then obviously your Joker card. Like I said, not a prediction show, just kind of discussing things. I don't think it's going to be AJ Lee. I could be mistaken, but I don't think it will be. I think it's more likely maybe to be Lana. Who knows whether they'll use her real name or give her a new gimmick name. I think honestly, they would be better off to give her a gimmick name than to go with her real name and give her something that sounds, Western European, kind of go with it, Miro's Bulgarian thing, let her play into the character that she did, and when she was the Russian originally with the accent and everything. I think that would make more sense. I think there was more substance to her then. I think it would be better off to play into that more. Maybe you can take it a little further, like maybe Eliana or something like that, that kind of has that Western Europe feel to it. So It could be her. Trying to think of there any. I don't think Brandy's ready to come back yet. It would make sense to put her in. You still have some affiliation with the NWA. Could be the NWA Women's Champion. A couple of possibilities there. So we'll see what happens with that. Next up, you have John Moxley, taking on New Japan legend in Satoshi Kojima. Dream match there for Mox. He's wanted to get his hands on Kojima for a long time. Should be great. You get the in-ring return for the first time in a long time, an AEW ring debut of Paul White taking on QT Marshall. We'll have Aaron Solo and Nick Camarado out there with him. You had the heel turn by the Gun Club just the other day, and the beatdown of Show to weaken him. So interesting to see what they. I can't see White losing this. Like, it's not a prediction show, but I can't see White losing this one. With it being his first match in, and QT Marshall isn't really doing it. I don't see anything with him right now that this win over White would really elevate him into something. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I think it makes more sense to have him go over, but we'll see what happens there. You've got the Jericho MJF match as well, where Jericho announced that he will retire from in competition in AEW if he loses. It's professional wrestling. Retirements aren't always retirements. I always find a way to work around it. But, Jericho hasn't beaten MJF yet. This is the first, really big show for them with crowds back. And it is also, so what I'm looking for here. All Out is like their WrestleMania. It's their biggest one. It was their first one. It's the marquee one. I think Jericho probably will win this one. Like I said, not a prediction show, but I'm just throwing that out there. But it's been an entertaining story, and we'll see where it goes. Miro and Eddie Kingston should be solid for the TNT Championship. Like I said, I think we might get a CJ Perry, Lana, whatever you want to call her, debut at this show. If she doesn't come out there, she might come out with Miro here. Should be interesting to see. These two, will be able to deliver very contrasting styles, but should be a solid watch. You've got the cage match for the tag team championships with the Young Bucks defending against the Lucha Brothers. Fantastic matchup there. I don't see the Bucks' reign ending at this point, but we'll see what happens. Britt Baker taking on Chris Statlander for the AEW Women's Championship. Britt's hot right now. Probably the most over woman in that division. So see what they do there. Got the in-ring return after 7 years of CM Punk taking on Darby Allin. Punk's return in Chicago. Well, I don't see how this doesn't end up in a Punk victory, but we'll see what happens. Should be solid. Let's see what he can do after being off for 7 years. The GTS he did the other night, a little sloppy, but we'll cut him some slack. It's been 7 years. He's got to get his mojo back, so to speak. And then for the AEW World Title, you've got Kenny Omega defending against the Impact champion Christian Cage. So really stacked card, really interesting show. I've avoided discussing AEW thus far, but they're starting to get some traction here. They're about 2 years old now, 100 episodes into their weekly television show. I'm getting some high profile talent in there. I think we just need to be careful with them of, going the, I want to be careful with my words here, but, kind of going that WCW route where, obviously WWE has been really the only game in town for a long time. So any kind of talent of any real name recognition is going to be coming from WWE. And WCW just, snatched up all this old WWE talent. And then after a while, it was like there wasn't any more WWE talent to snatch up. And that's what fans were waiting. It was like, well, who's next? Who's next? Who's next? Who's next? And there wasn't anybody next. And it's like, okay, well, now you got to build some things. And then they didn't do a good job of that. I think AEW thus far has done a pretty solid job of building up their own people. Hangman Page, Darby Allin. Even though he was huge over in Japan and everything like that, like Kenny Omega has been, a day one AEW guy. Wouldn't call him necessarily homegrown with as long as his career was been prior to the formation of AEW. But, he was never a WWE guy, let's put it that way. Same thing, with Britt Baker, Nyla Rose. They do have, their people that they've built up so far. So see if they can continue to do so. Mox was a WWE guy. Punk was a WWE guy. We'll see if the American Dragon shows up on Sunday or not. If he does, again, he was a WWE guy. Granted, a lot of these guys had very lengthy indie careers before going to WWE, but they also had legitimate tenure in WWE, which kind of made them WWE guys. So there's my thoughts on that. Other thing, like I said, I want to discuss these impending changes coming to NXT. Everybody's seen the new logo that they have been showing in clips, little advertising clips on both Raw and SmackDown. My thoughts on that, I don't know. And again, this is just food for thought. I could be totally wrong, but NXT the brand might not really be changing their look. NXT the show is changing their look. Apples and oranges, I don't know. But when you think about it, like the current show logo, is the traditional NXT letters, and then it's got that big X behind it and the wings and the skull. It's like, oh, we're heavy metal, we're hard rock, yeah. But that logo isn't on any TV bugs. That logo wasn't utilized on any of the takeover logos since it was adopted for the weekly program. So that version was kind of the show logo. The standard NXT logo was still just the letters. So this logo, while yes, it is just letters, with all that color and everything, I don't know if necessarily it's going to be a new brand logo more so than a show logo. We'll have to wait and see. I could be totally wrong. Maybe it is a whole new thing. And, if that's the case, are we going to get all new title belts and everything? Because, that logo is all over the existing titles. So let's see what happens. The other, changes there is the change in focus, the age of individuals they're bringing in, the types of individuals they're bringing in, the size of individuals they're bringing in. I don't necessarily think it's all a bad thing. You stop and you think about it for a minute, what they started doing, then what they went to, and now what they're talking about going back to, in terms of a developmental. They started bringing in some younger guys and grooming them. Then they started going the more indie route. Who are the popular guys on the indies? Let's get them under contract here. The problem with that, a lot of these popular indie guys are spending or have spent 7 to 14 years in some cases on the indie scene. It's a lot of wear and tear on your body. Then they come to WWE, spend at least a year or so, if not more, in NXT, because they want to get them, into the WWE mold. And then by the time you come up to the main roster, they're in their late 30s or early 40s, almost before, they've been exposed to the wider WWE audience. So what are you really developing? What are you really getting out of it? A lot of investment for not a lot of return. So the thought process of going younger, taking guys that haven't been on the indies, training them up from day one on what they want to do. By the time they're ready, maybe they spend a little bit longer in NXT. They spend, rather than a year or two in NXT, maybe they have to spend, 5-6 years in NXT, but then they move up to the main roster. They're still in their mid to late 20s, not their late 30s. And then you have a decent run on the main roster. You don't have as much wear and tear on your body when you're eventually called up to the main roster, et cetera, et cetera. The size of the athlete that they're talking about bringing in and stuff like that, that's a Vince thing. I don't think that's the end all be all of a performer. We've seen a lot of undersized individuals, and I use that term undersized lightly, that have excelled in the world of sports entertainment. Your Rey Mysterios. Shawn wasn't the world's biggest guy. Adam Cole's not the world's biggest guy. Daniel Bryan's not the world's biggest guy. Eddie wasn't the world's biggest guy. Like I said, there are, Jericho's not the world's biggest guy when you really stop and think about it. So, not everybody needs to be 6'4" at least, and chiseled out of granite. They're do you need a certain look? Do you need a certain physique and presence? And yes, but there are other ways around that, in terms of athleticism and character and everything, where you can manipulate things into giving people something, to get behind. So, we'll have to see what happens with the NXT. So, like I said, this is a little different video from the norm. As it wasn't really a prediction show, wasn't a retrospective, and everything. So, if you like this, what I'm doing here, just kind of spitballing and throwing some ideas out there. Like I said, I'd love to hear your thoughts too, on some of this. Comment down below. I do my best to try and see your comments come in and respond to them, and then take them into consideration. I try not to shoot anybody's ideas down or look down on anybody's ideas, so don't be afraid. Everybody has their thoughts and everybody has their ideas, and like I said, I'd love to hear them. So please, chime in down below. Let me know, where your heads are, what you guys are thinking. As always, give the channel a like, a share, a subscribe. Let's try and get this thing really spreading and going. Wherever you are, I hope you're doing well. Take care of one another, and I will see you when I see you.